Maley, your Brighton Town Supervisor, and I'm pleased to welcome you here tonight to learn more about Community Choice Aggregation, or CCA. This is our fourth community Zoom meeting, and I know that more and more of you are becoming familiar with CCA. I'm very excited about the program, the first of its kind in Monroe County, and I want to thank Joule Community Power and Roctricity for working with the town of Brighton on this innovative wholesale energy program. I certainly also want to thank Erica, our ASL interpreter tonight. Thank you, Erica. Thanks to buying in bulk through our CCA program, known as Monroe Community Power, Brighton residents and small businesses will soon use 100% renewable source electricity at a price that's actually cheaper than RG&E's pricing for traditional non-renewable source electricity. Our low CCA price will be fixed for 2 years, unlike RG&E's pricing that varies and could go higher. Maybe the best part about CCA is that most Brighton residents and small businesses don't have to do a thing come January to get the benefits of CCA. Tonight you'll hear from Glenn Weinberg from Joule and Sue Hughes-Smith from Roctricity, a local company that is an outgrowth of what used to be called the Rochester People's Power Coalition. You'll hear them talk more about CCA and answer questions that you may have. And we welcome those questions, by the way. Our CCA, Monroe Community Power, will be going into effect in January. I think you'll find that this is an exciting program that will not only save us money, but also advance our shared commitment to make Brighton a more sustainable community. And now I'm pleased to turn it over to Glenn Weinberg from Joule for some initial thoughts from Joule's perspective. Glenn, you're still muted.
You'd think after 10 months of this, one would get the hang of that. But thanks, Bill. Yeah, I'm Glenn Weinberg. I'm representing Joule Community Power. We are the CCA administrator for the Monroe Community Power program. That's a consultant, essentially, that's hired by the town and other municipalities in New York State to organize and implement these sorts of programs. We're so pleased to be working with the town of Brighton, and especially pleased that the town of Brighton has chosen to go in the direction of a 100% renewable and a 100% New York State renewable default electricity supply for all their residents and small businesses that choose to participate. It's an incredible step forward for the town and for the region, and as an example for communities around the state and frankly around the country. Everybody is watching what New York does, because New York has some of the most aggressive clean energy targets of any state, and including even other countries in Europe, elsewhere. And New York has done something special in the sense that they've placed in the hands of the communities a lot of control and a lot of and have empowered the communities to take big steps, big collective steps in a way that they haven't been able to before. And community choice aggregation is one of those tools. And the town of Brighton has shown, and with Bill as supervisor, has shown the leadership to go forward and take those steps, even though not very many other municipalities in this region have. So first of all, kudos to the town. I want to make myself available. I'll be here, you know, through Sue's presentation and further questions afterwards. But please feel free to, you know, get in touch with me anytime if you have any questions about the program or about Joule and our role in the program. And really, we are the administrator, which means that we're really the technical lead as far as the utility and the state regulators are concerned. But the real on-the-ground public outreach and education work which is really the heart of these programs, is performed by Sue and her team at Roctricity. So just thankful to have such a great partner. And with that, I'll toss it to Sue. She's going to lead you through the presentation. But again, I'll be around for the questions afterwards, and I look forward to speaking with you. So thanks for coming.
Okay, thank you, Glenn, and thank you, Supervisor Maley. Let me share my screen here and we'll get things started. So just in case you are new to Zoom, which seems super unlikely at this point, your microphone and camera are off during the presentation, but if you would like to ask a question, please use the Q&A feature. If you take your cursor towards the bottom of your screen, usually the bottom of your screen, you should have a little menu, that bar that pops up, and you'll see Q&A. And if you click that, then you can type in your questions. We will answer them towards the end of the program. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us this evening for a presentation about Monroe Community Powers and the clean energy choices that are available. Please note that Monroe Community Power actually includes 4 communities: the town of Irondequoit, the town of Pittsford, and the village of Pittsford. Will be moving forward with their own programs, and there are presentations about those tomorrow and next week, and you can find information on the Monroe Community Power events page if you're interested in learning about their programs. This evening, I will focus our remarks on the town of Brighton's program, which is the only community moving forward with a 100% New York State renewable CCA program, and is truly leading the way. Okay, so Brighton's program will officially launch on January 1st, 2021, and it will be a 100% renewable electricity program, and that is energy that is being produced and consumed in New York State, primarily hydropower. You can keep up with these details and find, our contact information at the website monroecommunitypower.com. And I hope by now you're starting to get a little bit familiar with the logo for your program. This evening, I will review what community choice aggregation is, kind of briefly, then the benefits, the contract details specific for Brighton. Will CCA affect you? What your bill will look like once CCA begins, and the next steps for you to expect. So community choice aggregation is a program that was authorized by the Public Service Commission. And that's a branch of New York State's government, essentially. And it allows municipalities to aggregate the demand for energy within their community, residents and small businesses primarily, and negotiate a bulk purchase, essentially shifting the selection of the default supplier from the state telling the utility, hey, if no one's made a decision, you need to purchase electricity on their behalf, to now your local municipality making this selection for the default supply. All energy customers are eligible to participate in CCA, but some customers are automatically included, and that's called opt-out treatment. And for most of us in Brighton, that's how we are treated. We are the residents and small businesses. It's basically based on your meter classification. And if you're a very large energy consumer, then you might be interested in participating, but you would have to opt in. And very few companies will probably take advantage of that because they often already negotiate better supply rates for themselves. So the idea behind community choice aggregation was for the state of New York to give the same opportunity to residents and small businesses that these very large energy users already have, the same way to influence the market. So the benefits of CCA include leveraging the bulk buying strategy through aggregation, and in so doing, projecting savings for those who participate. It also eliminates the price volatility through securing a fixed rate for the length of the program. It moved that default supplier to our local municipality making that choice. And we hope it will accelerate the transition to renewable energy as more and more communities influence the market saying we want renewable energy. More renewable energy will therefore get built over the long term. So if you look at the little diagram on the left of your screen, you'll see the red dashed line going up and down and up and down. And that's, of course, the wholesale energy market or electric market. The rules for the utility, for RG&E, require that they purchase electricity and pass that price through to us based on what they're buying on the market. So it varies from month to month to month. Whereas the CCA program is able to negotiate a fixed rate. And that's represented by the straight green line because the CCA rate will not change over the length of the program. So any 1 month, the market rate might be a little higher or a little lower than the CCA rate. But through a careful analysis of how the market has performed in the past and asking for a price that is lower than the previous 24 months, we're optimistic that participation in the CCA program will deliver savings to residents and small businesses. It is not, however, a guarantee because no one can predict what's going to happen in the future, pandemics, whatever. So the details for the Brighton program. The winning bidder is Source Power, and the length of the contract is 24 months. So beginning January 1st of 2021 and running through the end of 2023, you have the ability to access 100% renewable electricity at a fixed price of 4.292 cents per kilowatt hour, or as it's written there, 0.04 $292 per kilowatt hour. And this is a really fabulous rate, especially for a 100% New York State renewable product that's at a fixed rate, that has no fee to exit. If you as an individual were trying to find that same product on the retail market, it would cost 25% more. So this is a really fabulous value. And this rate is just below RG&E's variable rate for the system mix, which includes generation from fracked gas and nuclear power over the previous 24 months. So this is really exciting. It's a really great value for the product. So will CCA affect you or me? Well, customers are enrolled on an opt-out basis unless you have already contracted with a third-party supplier. So if you already have an ESCO, you are not automatically included, but you are welcome to participate in Monroe Community Power, and you would just need to opt into the program. And you could call us at Roctricity or use the website to make that change. If you are a customer that has a demand meter, so you're a very large consumer of electricity, then you're not automatically included. If you are a customer that has requested to have a block or a freeze on your account, then you also would not be automatically included. And finally, unfortunately, Home Energy Assistance Program participants are not currently eligible for this CCA program. And that's due to the rules around the HEAP program. It's unfortunate, but that this product isn't available right now for those participants. But everyone else will be automatically enrolled and begin to see that price January 1st, unless you take an action before the program begins. You can always opt out. It's always free to quit participating. But if you never want to be enrolled, you would need to take an action by December 21st. We, of course, hope everyone will participate because we think it's a really great value. So will your electric bill look different once the CCA program launches? And yes, it will look a little different, and I'll show you a picture of that in just a minute. But what happens is that right now, the supply details, so the details associated with the actual electrons, are located right below RG&E's details for their delivery charges. That's if you don't have a CCA and you don't have an ESCO. Once the CCA starts, the supply details are going to move later into the bill. So let's take a look at that. So here you go, sample RG&E bill, and you will notice through the red ovals there that we have both delivery charges and electricity supply charges. And that's because RG&E is our utility. They maintain the poles, the wires, the billing, the meter reads, and their role does not change. So all of their costs are embedded into the delivery charges, and the Public Service Commission basically sets those rates with them. And the CCA program will not change those delivery charges. The CCA program is focused only on the second part, which is electric supply charges. So on this bill, this is an example of where RG&E is purchasing supply on your behalf. And so the details are listed right after the delivery charges, but that's going to move. And also should note for you that in this portion of the electric supply charges, there are actually several lines, and you would have to add all of those rates together to know what the monthly RG&E rate is on supply. And that also is different with the CCA program. I'll explain in a second. Okay, so the bill with CCA, the first thing you're going to notice is right up on the front page where there's a consolidated account summary. And what happens is you will see a line item added for source power charges. So remember, you're not being charged extra. It's that now RG&E isn't purchasing the supply. Instead, we're purchasing it from source power. And so the RG&E rate cost right here will have declined, and source power's cost will be right beneath that. Next, if you go further into your bill, you'll see again the RG&E's delivery charges, and now those supply charges have moved. They're no longer right beneath the delivery charges. They're going to be further into the bill. And actually, they're located right near messages. And again, you'll see the name source power, probably not in yellow, but you'll see source power and you'll see electricity supply detail. And notice here how there's just one line of charges. So everything is embedded into this supply price of 4.292 cents per kilowatt hour. And so there will now just be the one line showing your supply charge. So that makes it a little simpler. So the next step, so you should have received a letter if you didn't fall into any of those other categories. If you don't have a block, if you didn't recently have an ESCO, then you should have received a letter. And that letter basically said all the information that I just shared with you. And it had a card that you could mail back if you don't want to participate. But you can also just call us on the phone and we're happy to help you. So the next thing that happens is we have till December 21st. If you've opted out by then there will be no change for you at all. If you do nothing, which is a great feature, if you do nothing, then you will begin to be enrolled into the program starting January 1st. And you will know that everything's worked out correctly if when you get your February bill, you see Source Power's name in your bill. Okay, so the bill is still going to come from RG&E. It is still one bill, but in there you will see Source Power's name under the consolidated account summary and down towards messages with the supply detail. Okay, and so if you get to February and you didn't see that and you want to be in the program, then again, you should call us and we will assist you. So thank you so much for listening to this program. And just a reminder that the MonroeCommunityPower.com website is where you can find the same information and our contact information and so forth. But if you want to reach us, you can call us at 244-0244, and you will either get myself, Sue, or my colleagues Ben Freevert, Margie Pete, or Melissa Carlson. And now I think we're ready for questions.
Thanks very much, Sue, and thank you, Glenn. We've gotten a number of questions all about pricing. So let me try to address some of them, and I know Sue is going to chime in. Questions about, you know, the last 24 months. One of the things I think it's important to note is that there are also some charges that RG&E adds on when you look at that bill. If you recall the bill that Sue posted, there are additional charges that are added to get the full RG&E supply price. The supply price that will come from the Monroe Community Power, the Brighton CCA, will not have a separate charge of that nature. It's really an all-in price. I think also what you're seeing to a certain extent is exactly the kind of flexibility, the variability that Sue talked about in pricing. A year or so ago, electricity prices had gotten quite low. They are now somewhat higher. So I think based on that flexibility, the variability of pricing, we don't know from RG&E what the price is going to be over the next 24 months. We have some indication based on where futures prices may be going, but we don't know for sure, and we're not guaranteeing in any way that pricing will be lower than over the next 24 months. But what we do know is that for 100% New York renewable energy, backed by the so-called RECs, the renewable energy certificates issued by the state of New York, when we went out to market and we went out and got competitive bids from wholesale power suppliers this fall, this was the most attractive price for that 100% renewable power. Someone asked about another community where the price turned out to be higher. We had rejected an earlier price. We went out to bid before the COVID pandemic hit, and frankly, the pricing was not as good. It was not as attractive compared to current RG&E pricing. So we wanted to wait, take a little more time. Obviously, the pandemic intervened, but when we went back out to the market, this was the most attractive price. But I think, you know, someone asked, well, what makes a municipality the best judge of an ESCO? And I'm certainly not going to tell you that I know more about ESCOs or wholesale power supply than anybody else. But the Public Service Commission, after watching community choice aggregation programs in a number of different communities, has determined that it is a good program. It's a great program for allowing communities to go sustainable. And it's based on that judgment that the Public Service Commission also made the judgment that these programs would be done on an opt-out basis. They've recognized that community choice aggregation is a way to buy in bulk, get attractive pricing, and move the needle on sustainability. So, that addresses a number of the pricing related questions. Someone asked about an ESCO that somebody else has for $3.99 per kilowatt hour fixed for 36 months.
Yeah,
I don't know whether that's a sustainable plan. I don't know whether there are penalties to leave that plan. Without any of the details, it's not apples to apples. Glenn?
I was able to find it actually because I saw that question come in. So this is an offer which is brown power, so not renewable. It's got a cancellation fee on it, and it's a fixed rate for 36 months, but you have to stay in it for 36 months or else pay that cancellation fee. So there are a number of ways. In other words, those are sort of the fine print, in some regard. But these are the types of things that we look at and that we build into the process so that we make sure, for instance, in a CCA program, there's never any exit fee. You can leave at any time, right? So you don't have to, you have that rate available to you for 24 months, but you don't have to take us up on that. You can try it out and then switch out of it with no cancellation fee. So there are a number of ways that we compare, what we're offering to other market opportunities. In that case, that's a non-renewable product with a number of contingencies or a number of consumer considerations attached to it, including an exit fee. So, and generally speaking, I also see, to your point, Bill, in terms of other fees, one of the questions is referencing the RG&E website. Again, I'd be careful, about that, because sometimes the utilities list their prices in various ways. One way that you can see a true apples to apples comparison, if you Google power to choose New York or something to that effect, the first result you'll get is a website that's maintained by the Department of Public Service, so by New York State, that has a database of all of the active offers by other suppliers as well as utility rates. So when you look there, and that's a state database, when you look there, what you'll find is that RG&E's rate, their just posted December rate, is just a tick under our renewable. So they're at 427, and our renewable price is at 4292. So a little bit lower. But if you look at the previous 6 months, what you'll notice is that RG&E's price has been between 4.5 and 5 cents. And you do have to Bill's point, you do have to look at trends and not individual month pricing, because the electricity markets are quite variable, and from month to month, fairly unpredictable. But what we do is to understand what a good price means is by looking at those historical rates. So if you look at the recent rates that we've been paying, even during the pandemic, they've been considerably higher in some cases than the fixed price that the CCA offers.
Thanks, Glenn. I'm going to go on to some of the other questions that are on here, because we've got some questions that are not pricing related that really get to the main thrust of this program, which is the renewable source purchasing. And I've got a question from Paul Tankel, and Paul is a very avid person in the sustainability community, a member of our town sustainability oversight committee. And I'm just going to read Paul's question because he touches on a number of important issues, and I think he'll be able to answer some questions that other people have. He writes, "It sounds as though Monroe Community Power's energy source will be primarily hydro with some wind. If I want solar in the mix, in addition to my existing solar panels, do I then sign on to community solar? If this is the case, what percentage comes from solar? What is the relationship between Monroe Community Power, Joule, and community solar?" Several really good and important questions in there, Paul. Thank you. Sue, do you want to?
Sure, I can kick us off. So the first thing to know is that if you have solar panels on your roof, you can participate in community choice aggregation. They work together really well. What you cannot do is subscribe to an additional community solar program. So if you have CCA, you can have solar panels. If you have CCA, you can have community solar, but you cannot have solar panels on your roof and community solar. So you can only participate in New York State's net metering program for solar once. So,
and by the way, that's true whether or not, if you opt out and stay with RG&E supply, that is still the case. And under no circumstance will New York allow you to have both the panels on your roof and the net metering that comes with that, as well as a community solar program like this, like the community solar. But you can, do one or the other and a CCA.
Right, exactly. So the CCA program is almost all hydro with a little bit of wind. And so the solar you're getting is from your rooftops. And then I don't know, Glenn, do you want to address the relationship between Monroe Community Power, Joule, and community solar?
Sure. So we offer, as Sue and Bill are saying, we offer community solar as an additional option, an additive opportunity for consumers. It's not offered on an opt-out basis the way that the electricity supply, 100% renewable electricity supply is offered. It's offered on an opt-in or voluntary basis that comes with a customer contract. So it's a different sort of offer, but that's up to you whether to participate. In terms of this, though, I think the question, what is the relationship, is that Paul is trying to figure out sort of the renewable mix here. And on one side, we're dealing with essentially wholesale power, of which in New York State, our renewable wholesale resources are hydro and wind. There's very little wholesale or utility scale solar in the New York grid. Almost all of the solar built in New York is what we call distributed solar, like the solar on your roof or like community solar. They're both what we call distributed solar, which means that they plug into the local grid. They don't plug into the wholesale transmission grid. That's sort of the easiest way to say it. So they sort of fall in, I know this is getting a little into the weeds, but they sort of fall into two different buckets of renewable energy, right? The CCA program, Monroe Community Power, supports both. We buy from the hydro and wind resources in the wholesale market, and we partner with the community solar resources in the distributed market, and you as the customer can take advantage of one, both, or neither.
Thanks, Glenn. Someone asked about the guaranteed price period. How long is the fixed rate event in effect, and is there a maximum after that time? So we have entered into a contract to purchase wholesale power on a 2-year fixed price basis. You're not committed for 2 years. You can, as we've said, come and go at any time. You can leave the program and come back in, no penalties. But Source Power is committed to selling power to the town for 2 years at this fixed price. What happens, and obviously contrast that with RG&E. And by the way, I hope none of this comes across as negative with RG&E, because we're working with RG&E. RG&E will continue to be a very important part of the mix, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But RG&E's price, as we've said, varies. The CCA price won't. But when we get 2 years out, it's my expectation that we will again continue to work with Joule and Roctricity, our partners in this project. And we will ask Joule to go out on our behalf again into the wholesale market and again purchase power on a long-term basis, on a fixed price basis, to continue to supply this CCA. That's our expectation. That's my hope. And my hope is also that as more and more communities get involved in community choice aggregation, we are going to be stimulating generation of renewable power in New York. We'll be a bigger market, more wholesale power suppliers will find this an attractive market. So we expect to have even more options 2 years from now that we hope and expect will continue to provide us with an attractive price for renewable source energy purchase. The next question someone had asked, which I don't think is one it's a good one and nobody has asked it in these various meetings. Will going to the CCA affect RG&E rebates that have been available for new energy efficient furnaces?
No.
So people will still be eligible for those rebates. I think there have been sometimes rebates on refrigerators as well. So the rebates that are out there in the market that RG&E provides will continue to be available. Sue, maybe you can talk a little bit about that RG&E, again, the relationship, because we're not ditching RG&E at all. RG&E will continue to be they will distribute this power that we've purchased to your home.
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it really well this afternoon, Bill, on connection. So the state of New York deregulated the electricity market, at least the wholesale supply part of the electric market in the 90s. So RG&E doesn't make money off of the supply part of the bill. Their role is to ensure that we get the electricity. So they take care of the wires and so forth, and that's the delivery charges. So it sometimes looks like they might still own because there's a supply section on the bill, but they're just passing those costs through from where they're purchasing it to us. So the CCA program is not negatively impacting RG&E, and RG&E actually has been a great partner thus far with the rollout of the CCA program. And you probably got a call from them sometime last week, kind of a robocall reminding you that you'd gotten this letter. So RG&E will keep doing the same job they have been doing, and you now have access to a 100% New York State renewable electricity product for supply.
And again, as Sue said, one bill, RG&E will continue to read your meter, assuming that you have the traditional meter that gets manually read. If there's a storm, we know how that goes. If there's a power outage, RG&E will continue because they own that distribution system, the power, the wires. They will do that repair work. If your power goes out, you'll continue to go to the rgne.com webpage to report an outage and to look on their webpage for the status of the fix. Community choice aggregation is only the supply source for your electricity. There's a couple of questions that are pretty much similar. Basically, I'll just read the one. I'm a solar net metering customer, and the other question notes that, at different times of the year, there's more sunshine, solar panels may be more efficient. How will that work? How does the net metering program work, and do you continue with a net metering program under CCA?
So yeah, if you have solar panels on your roof, or if you subscribe to a community solar program. Basically, net metering is when you're drawing the sun's energy from your panels into your house. that's great. But if you have extra, it goes out onto the grid. And the utility compensates you for sharing that electricity with the grid. And then if you need electricity, like at nighttime, you're drawing electricity off of the grid. And so that's what net metering means. It simply means that the energy is going back and forth. And there are pricing schemes associated with that. None of that changes with CCA. So the net metering situation remains.
Thanks, Sue. You'll just be getting the supply that makes up the difference from the CCA rather than from RG&E.
Right.
Another good question. If I receive both gas and electricity from an ESCO, where would the person receive their gas service if they join the CCA?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. You can remain, well, I should say most ESCOs would allow you to remain in a gas service only, but you really would need to check with your ESCO and your contract details with them. So I can't possibly know all the different options that are available out there. So do check your contract, but some people do subscribe to an ESCO for gas and a CCA, or not a ESCO for electric. So you'll need to check with the details of the program you're currently enrolled in to see what's best for you.
Yeah, and I'd just add to that, Sue, that if, for instance, you had different ESCOs for gas and electric, you could join the CCA program, which would only impact the electric side. So you'd leave that ESCO to come to this program, and your gas ESCO would remain exactly as it stands. So again, in the case where the same ESCO is serving you both sides of your bill, you do as Sue is recommending, which is to get in touch with them. If you have different ESCOs for those two services, this will not touch your gas service.
I think this question, where is the hydropower coming from? Why did we choose hydro versus sun or wind? I think that's a question that, Glenn, you really just answered. There is very little utility scale solar power in New York at this point. That may change over time. I hope it does change over time. So it's primarily hydropower from smaller dams. People ask about Niagara Falls. This is not electricity from Niagara Falls. Generally, this is hydropower generated from smaller dams throughout the state with some wind possibly included in it.
And nor is it, to your point, Bill, nor is it hydropower from Quebec, for instance, which is another thing that these are all New York generators. And as Bill is saying, run-of-river hydro facilities that are sort of small and mid-scale are the facilities that we buy our renewables from.
And Glenn, could you add to that? On the last program, you mentioned that there was a environmental standard for some of those facilities.
Yeah, there's a certification by a nonprofit association or institute called the Low Impact Hydropower Institute, LIHI. And it's similar to LEED, if you've heard of that, for buildings, where they certify, and there's various levels of certification based on how high performance your building is in terms of energy efficiency and other sustainability tools you can install at the building level. This works a similar way, where there's a number of components that they come and look at in terms of the ecological and environmental impact that a run-of-river hydro generator would have on the local ecology in terms of fish and other wildlife and plants and soil, and there's a number of, it's a very extensive evaluation. That's not a mandatory, that's a privately offered certification that many of the resources in New York, hydro resources in New York have gone through, not all, but there is these facilities tend to be rather low impact, as I said, run of river, sort of small and mid scale, not this sort of industrial hydro like we're thinking about in terms of Niagara or Quebec Hydro.
Thanks, Glenn. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much. Absolutely. I hear from people, and someone has asked the question here. My neighbor has the same RG&E bill as mine. Why didn't she get a letter? Will she be automatically opted in? Sue?
Yeah, if your neighbor did not get a letter, then you should assume that they are not going to be automatically opted in. There may be a reason for that. They may have a block on their account that they put on at some point, or had inadvertently signed up for an ESCO. But if your neighbor would like to participate, we're happy to make that happen. They just need to call us at 244-0244 or use the Monroe Community Power website where you navigate to the enroll or change options. But we're happy to talk with your neighbor and straighten that out.
I just want to offer, Rochelle Bell, which is a great name. It's also my mother's name, Rochelle.
And by the way, Rochelle is another very active planner and sustainability member of our community. So it's great to have you here as well, Rochelle.
Well, hi, Rochelle. And even before Bill said that, my offer to you is that feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to explain to you, and not because, only because we've got a time limit here. RECs stand for Renewable Energy Certificates. It's the way in which renewable energy is tracked. Renewable energy is bought and sold in various ways and with various different customer types and buyers and sellers. The certificates are the way in which that renewable energy is tracked in the system. And I am very happy to explain that to you to the extent that you would like to learn more about renewable energy certificates. So please do reach out to me and we can talk more about that. I only say that because it's one of those topics that tends to be require a little bit more time than we have tonight.
Thanks, Glenn. If I opt out now, can I opt in later? Yes. Without charge, at least on the CCA side, and RG&E, I have no reason to believe is going to impose any charge on you either. Again, I would note that if you're sort of jumping back and forth thinking you're going to grab the lower price, remember your RG&E bill is looking in the rearview mirror. What your RG&E bill lists as the price for electricity is going to be the price for the previous time period. It may or may not be the price for the future period that you think you're opting into. And that's, again, a function of that variable price. I can't stress enough, though, there is a big difference. And Glenn talked about the RECs and the certification of the source of electricity that's purchased. These are New York source, New York RECs. The RG&E power mix is a very different power mix here in this area. It is largely a combination. There is some renewable energy included, but the other two primary sources are nuclear and natural gas.
Jill is asking about the solar farms.
Yes.
So we can get you more specific information, Jill. But a good way to think about it is that all of the community solar farms that we work with for the town of Brighton have to be inside of Rochester Gas and Electric's service territory footprint, which is quite small geographically compared to some of the others. So it really is the Rochester area and then extending in a very little narrow sort of strip a little further south into the Finger Lakes. But
And in fact,
yeah.
on the Monroe Community Power website, if you go under the solar tab, you'll see 4 of the solar fields listed there. And if you call us, I can get you the addresses of a couple of the other ones.
Okay.
Thank you both. There's a question here. Please explain the working relationship between Roctricity and Joule. Glenn?
Sure. Yeah. So we're partners. Joule is as far as the state regulators are concerned, and as far as the utility is concerned, and as far as the suppliers are concerned, Joule is the administrator. We are the lead contractor here for the town, consultant, but we partner. We partner with Roctricity in a very meaningful way, in the sense that there's a lot of work to be done. Some of that work is better done by us, Joule, and much of that work, including all of the, not all, but including much of what happens locally in the town of Brighton, in terms of meetings like this, of course, as well as other local promotion, answering your questions, and being a trusted and durable source of information and education in the community. That's Roctricity. And they are, the Roctricity is made up, it's a Rochester-based organization. All of the principals live and work right in some in Brighton, but all in the general area. So they're your neighbors, and they're there to make sure that the community's interests are well represented.
And then I think it's relevant to talk a little bit about the town's role in this, and how the town came to work with Joule and Roctricity. We've talked about the State Public Service Commission quite a bit. They regulate the CCA programming, and one of the things they regulate is you have to pass muster, if you will, with the PSC for the PSC to allow you to serve as a CCA plan administrator. I believe at the present time there are still only 3 approved CCA plan administrators approved by the PSC in the state of New York. So the town, when we made the decision that we wanted to look at community choice aggregation, one of the early things we had to do is pass a local law that, among other things, authorized us to enter into a contract with a plan administrator. We then went through a request for proposal, a competitive bidding type of process. And we received 3 bids, and the town board voted to enter into a contract with Joule, knowing that Joule was also in collaboration with Roctricity for some of the local customer service and communication work that they've been doing. So we entered into that contract with Joule, and one of the most important things that we knew that Joule would do for us is take the next step in that bidding process, that they would prepare, working in collaboration with the town, specifications for a bid to be able to go out to the wholesale power market and identify the best options for us to consider. And so that's a process that's taken a couple of years. This is not something that we jumped into overnight, nor is it something that the Public Service Commission has jumped into overnight. In New York State, community choice aggregation began with a pilot program in Westchester County. And based on that pilot program, the PSC looked at what worked, which was an awful lot. And that's been demonstrated by the fact that more and more municipalities in Westchester County have joined that CCA. So based on their experience down there, they put together these regulations from that pilot program, and now the CCA programs throughout the state follow those Public Service Commission regulations.
I see Tom's question. Tom Kane, are you purchasing tier 1 or tier 2 hydro-recs? The answer is both. So there are compliance requirements on tier 1, and just so I can give everybody else a, a little color onto that question, New York State has created a tiered system for essentially characterizing the different renewable resources, and therefore the power that those resources produce generate a number of different, well, for the sake of this conversation, 2 different classes of certificates. Tier 1 are those for new build renewables. So since 2015, the last 5 years, anything that's new to the grid in the last 5 years generates tier 1. Anything that's older than that, and there are some exceptions, but this is the general rule of thumb, anything older than that generate tier 2 certificates, and we are buying both. And the combination of the tier 1s and the tier 2s are 100% of what we use as a community. Okay. Oh.
So we're getting close to the 8 o'clock hour, and I'd just like to be mindful of our ASL interpreters because they shouldn't be signing for more than an hour at a time for their health. So any last thoughts or questions? What do you think, Bill?
It looks like, you know, we've addressed, as I said, we had a lot of pricing related questions, and you know, and I get it. I guess I want to again stress that yes, we believe this is a very attractive price. That's why we accepted the bid. But the main reason we're here, the main reason this came, and you know, this started for me in Sue Hughes Smith's living room a lot of years ago, where she was talking with various community people about community choice aggregation. And I know in different communities, you know, we were on today with Evan Dawson. We heard a similar story from the folks in Victor and Canandaigua. They heard about this program at the grassroots level. And the more we looked, the more it made sense. It is not just about price, although we do think this is an attractive price, as Mr. Witherspoon points out, that, you know, a lot of decimal places, but yes, this is cheaper than RG&E's average price for the last year. But more importantly, and I can't stress this enough, what this program is really about is the opportunity to provide sustainable, renewable electric source energy in the town of Brighton. So I think we have addressed the various other questions here.
I think one just came in about, will we be posting like a scorecard comparing? And absolutely, we will over time as the program rolls out, make some information available on the website. You can look at, I think, the Westchester Power Program for kind of an example. We will take that sort of an approach.
We also, on an annual basis, we'll be doing reporting to both the town and the state, and those will be publicly available, and we're happy to. And those annual reports will cover a number of topics. So depending on what you mean by scorecard, I think you'll, you know, those annual reports will catch a lot of probably what you're thinking about there in terms of price and enrollment and those sorts of things.
Well, thank you, Sue. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you very much, Erica. And thank you to everybody that joined us this evening. As I said, this is the 4th one. You can go back and look at some of the previous ones. If you're looking for more information, go to the Monroe Community Power webpage. And by all means, if you have more questions, please don't hesitate. 244-0244 is the number for Monroe Community Power, and they will be there ready to answer questions that you might have about community choice aggregation.
Yeah, and if you prefer email, the email address is there as well, right? info@monroecommunitypower.com. We're happy to spend time chatting with you.
So again, thank you very much. Please stay safe. These are difficult times. Please stay safe. Enjoy the holidays. Enjoy the holidays with your household, please. We're going to get through this. And I do firmly believe that come January, with the start of community choice aggregation in Brighton, we are going to have something new, something exciting, something sustainable that will be a benefit for all of us. So thank you to everybody helping making that possible. And we look forward to talking to you again in the future. Have a nice evening, everybody.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Bill, and thanks so much for coming, everybody.